All right. Hello there, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Masmorra. I'm an Age of Empires 2 content creator and longtime community member.
And I'm TheViper. I'm a professional Age of Empires 2 player and content creator representing Gamer Legion.
And on behalf of Gamer Legion, we're pleased to announce the launch of your new favorite Age of Empires podcast, Keep Talking. We're still not quite sure about the name, so if our viewers have an even better idea, please do let us know in the comment section down below. Once a month, you can expect a new episode from us, where Viper and I will be discussing all the hot topics surrounding the Age of Empires franchise, give our takes on whatever drama is currently busying the minds of the community, and maybe even share the occasional insider information regarding future events. You can also expect guest appearances on the show, and for today's episode, we're very pleased and very happy to have with us Nili. Thank you so much for taking the time, Nili.
Very welcome. Love to be here.
All right, so today is Monday, March 20th, and we currently find ourselves in Gamer Legion's beautiful gaming house right in the heart of Berlin, where the long-awaited NAC4 tournament has just finished a few hours ago, and thus this episode will be fully dedicated to the event. And to those of you who still haven't watched the tournament, fair warning, this episode will be full of spoilers, obviously. How hard did you party yesterday, my friends?
I partied nothing. I've gone through something this week that kind of prevents me from partying a little bit, but...
well, we shall be talking about that, my friend.
I think actually, at the end of these types of events, I think people don't really feel like partying, right? At most, maybe you go out to like a bar or something, have like a beer or two and just relax. Because, you've been through the whole week, like just so much focus for the production as well. Whereas like you don't really feel like, oh, let's go party, It's more like, let's chill, enjoy the last evening together and take it from there.
Well, when I left, I think it was like 11:30. I'm an old man. I need to be early in bed. What about you, Nili? How long have you been here?
I went to bed like 5 a.m.
Wow.
4:45ish, something like that. Obviously, for me, it's like lots of nights without a lot of sleep, right? It is the first night where I don't really have any big responsibilities on the next day except like clearing up stuff. So my body is shutting down a bit, right? I don't need to press more Red Bull and Pepsi into me in an hourly basis. So it was more like taking a chill, 2-3 beers, shisha, and went to bed early.
Very early indeed. All right, folks, let's talk NAC4. It had been 3 long years since the last Nili's Apartment Cup, one of the most beloved tournaments in the Age of Empires 2 professional scene. And so the expectations for NAC4 were sky high. And as far as I'm concerned, man, did it deliver. What an amazing tournament. The games were great. The atmosphere was amazing. I think I'll even go as far as saying it was one of my favorite LAN tournaments in the history of the game. I was actually sick for the whole week, so I had lots of times to watch it. And huge props to you, Nili, and to your team. I can't even imagine how much work it must have been and how much work there goes on behind the scenes to put something like this together. You looked tired yesterday. Tired but happy. How was it?
Yeah, both probably very fitting, right? I did the math once, and I think something like 800 to 900 hours are going into it, including like the streaming week there of like 150 hours now, obviously over the last 9 days. So yeah, lots of stuff happening, and I'm certainly tired, and will be 3 long weeks on the couch.
That's totally deserved as far as I'm concerned. But it wasn't all sunshine and roses, my friends. At the end of day 4, you, Viper, gave us all a big scare when your girlfriend Debbie wrote on Twitter she had to go with you to the hospital because you had been complaining about unbearable stomach pain. So let's start with that, please. Talk us through the whole ordeal. When did you first notice that something was very wrong with you?
So, I felt fine coming into the tournament, no issues whatsoever. I played the first 2 days without any issues, but the third day I woke up with some pain in my upper abdominal area, and I wasn't sure what it was. Obviously, I just laid in bed and it wore off after 2-3 hours. So I was like, this is fine. But even at one point then, I was considering maybe I should go to the hospital and check it out because it wasn't very pleasant. Yeah, I was able to play that day as well, fine. I didn't feel much as the day went on. Next day as well was fine. But that night, as I got back to the hotel room, it started becoming quite bad. Again, the pain in the upper abdominal, and then also kind of stinging into the back of my, in between the back of my shoulder blades as well. So it was quite rough. And I just texted Debbie, the pain is back. I'm not really sure what to do, right? She came to my room immediately, when things like that happen, she's just like, okay, let's get to the hospital, right? Mm-hmm. There's no point flapping about.
She doesn't like waiting, yeah.
Exactly. So we went there. But you know, when you go to an emergency room at the night, it's like you're thrown into a room and you lay there and kind of wait for the doctor to maybe drop by within an hour. So I went there. They just took some blood, checked my blood work. They prepared IV if they wanted to give me medicine. And yeah, just kind of laid on a bench or like on a table, kind of thing, in the hospital for like 4 or 5 hours, just turning around in pain. And it was, I would argue, maybe the worst night of my life. So it was not pleasant at all. And what it has given me though is new respect for mothers, because they compare that pain to giving birth. So like, shout out to all the moms out there. It was really rough. The day after, like, they sent me home around 6-7 a.m.
Crazy.
And I was able to get like 2-3 hours of sleep. And then the day after, I went to a hospital again, where Game Legion took me there, and then I was able to get a little bit more of a thorough checkup, and then they identified that there were gallstones, and just pretty much told me what I should do to try and prevent it from coming back. The next couple of days was pretty much just about laying in bed, recovering, and trying to be at a point where I can actually show up and hopefully put in a performance when it matters.
Mm-hmm. In terms of therapy, what's the next step for you when you go back home?
So I'm gonna have an appointment with gastrodoc, we call it in Germany. I'm not sure what you call it in English. They help me out here.
I don't know.
Gastrodoc, they go through your throat and check out like from the throat.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
People understand.
They go through your mouth and to check out everything. They're going to check out my gallbladder, and I also had a surgery on my stomach for my hernia a couple of years ago. So they're going to get an update on that as well. Then I will just see what they say. Most likely a little bit of a change in diet, maybe some more movement, things like that will help. So I'm going to keep doing that for now, and then just wait for the doctor's orders. And I've been feeling better every day since it happened. So it is getting better, and just got to take more care.
Yeah. Nili, did you have like a emergency plan in place for the case Viper wasn't able to actually play his series?
Obviously, right? That's the time that I spent there, right? Obviously, he had the last set anyways, so that made it easy. And I gave him till 21:45.
Was that the match against Leary, if I'm not mistaken?
That was day 5.
Leary, yeah.
Leary, yeah. So he had 22 local time. His match was scheduled. So obviously, typically we want to have set after set. So we prepared some filler content there, prepared the micro scenarios that we played later in the show. And I gave him till 21:45 to basically start the draft. Right, and if he didn't show up in time, it would be an admin loss. And then till midnight, he had time to commit to the next match on playing in the round of 8, basically the following day. If he couldn't do that, we would have had the 9th place basically ranked up.
Jordan is back.
Right. It would have been
Jordan, yeah.
But not replacing Viper. It's just like everyone moves up below him. That would have been our plan.
Right. So I think in that match against Leary, it was pretty obvious you were in pain, right? You felt physical discomfort. Was that the case for any of the matches before, or not really?
Well, every match. I was on a unhealthy amount of painkillers throughout the whole event as well. That certainly helped. And then there was like the good thing is that when you're playing a tournament match like that, you're so focused, right? So at least some of the attention went away, and like I didn't feel it too much while playing because I just got into the games, right? So that helped a lot. But I noticed as soon like 15-20 minutes after the games were done, it was just right back. But yeah, it was not pleasant. I think the biggest issue though was like I was still able to get to the point where I could still perform relatively well. I mean, I still got a pretty decent finish. So, but the most issue here for me was more that I couldn't be here and prepare like. Test more strategies, builds, etc. I was laying in the hotel bed the whole time. That was the biggest issue for me.
Right. You, Viper, you had won all 3 previous editions of NAC. This time around, you weren't able to, but you ended up losing to Leary in the semifinals now, right? In a very close series. I was rooting for you, of course. I mean, I've known you for like 10 years now. And I was so nervous watching that game, man. It was so close. I think it was Mayans against Hans.
Correct.
A classic AOC matchup, no less. So all things considered, is losing the semifinals a result you can be happy with?
I mean, like all things considered, with everything that went on, I'm still very, very happy that like I expected to show up against Winchester and just be like, okay, goodbye, that's it. But I was able to beat both him and Villessa to get to the semis, right? And I would say I put up a fairly competitive semifinal as well. So all in all, I'm very happy with that. But you know, competitive nature in me is like I'm still looking at 2-3 of those games against Leary, and I'm thinking like that was a bad move, or like that was a bad decision, and like. So that those things still nag at me as always, but I mean, when everything is said and done, it was a very satisfying result.
Let me hear Nili's opinion on that. What you think went wrong for Viper in his series against Leary in the semifinals?
Well, technically we could go game by game, right? If we go for the highlight scenes, I think his draft was better for the 2 remaining maps. And if we go to like the
for
key
Leary,
match,
we're talking about Leary now.
no, Viper's draft was better.
My draft.
For
Okay.
the last 2 maps only, right? It was Mayans against Hans.
So the ones that weren't played, right?
Well, Hans and mines were played, but the last map would have been Northern Isles, and I would have had Koreans
Koreans, true,
Saracens,
true.
which should be better for Koreans, but Saracens are still a scary civ, right?
Okay, so in your mind, Nili, what went wrong for Viper there?
Well, I think it was simply one single misstep, right? Moving out late Castle Age. We had the setup fully walled. Castle was on the way. 3 relics were there. And 1 outpost or 1 scouting eagle. And we don't lose those 4 monks. And
I
the
think
game goes into more stable.
I think even if I just pay attention as I see his army, because I only saw it once we had started engaging. So if I see it right away, I can start 4 conversions earlier. And if I get 4 knights, I probably trade that fight pretty evenly.
It was Paladins by that. No, it was still late Castle Age, true.
Late Castle Age,
Castle Age.
After that, I kind of had to rush down 2 castles in my base to stabilize. I was still able to get it to Imperial Age. And even then, I think like I took a fight that I felt was forced towards the end because I was about to be completely out of gold. But I didn't realize that he was also completely out of gold.
Right.
If I had known that, I would have definitely been a bit more patient with my army. And I mean, hindsight is 20/20. Mistakes were made, but I think Leary also played very, very well that game.
If we're talking, sorry, go ahead.
Leary forced the issue pretty
Yeah.
nice, right?
Yeah,
He
for
went like full paladin and didn't add any skirmishers. Viper felt it would be a mix a bit more, and that's why you added so much eagles. If you like go for just like 70 halves, 5 traps, and then go into into eagles, the game goes so much easier for you as well, and you get back to the gold.
I agree. The ratio eagle versus halb was probably a bit too high in favor of the eagles. A little bit more halbs. Then I could also had a more of a long-term plan as well, where I can mix in eagles as the game goes on. But you know, I was under a lot of pressure. Wasn't sure exactly what to do. I knew I had a relic advantage as well, but I only had access to one gold at that point, where it was like, okay, this is it, right? So next fight I had to win to get back on the map and then try to take it from there. But I mean, if I knew what the situation was exactly, I would have probably been a bit more patient.
Let's talk about the finalists, Hera and Leary. They've both looked incredibly strong right from the very first day, I'll say. Hera ended up winning his 2nd S-tier LAN tournament in a row after the Grand Melee. And for Leary, this is now the 6th LAN final he was not able to win. And as crazy as it sounds, he actually never won a LAN tournament, right? Is this just bad luck, Nili, or is there something more to it?
The thing is, I think it is variance, and people hate me for it because obviously people want to build up storylines, right? And people really think, he has to have a mental blockage, but he forced so many last games as well. And we're in so many games 9s, game 7s. I think he could have won the last game against Viper. I think, I don't think it's a big problem. Also, like, it was like, how many of those did go into the last game?
Very many of them, right?
I would think at least 5 of those 6.
Yeah, series against
Probably.
Hera and Leary and Hera are
4,
just so incredibly close all the time. It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, I can picture 3 games 3 times being just, coincidence, but 6 times? Is it just variance?
I would think so, right? You're playing the other best in the world at that moment, right?
True.
So let's say you're going in there 50-50. Maybe the opponent prepared a bit better. I would say he could have won this one as well, right?
For sure. Even like some of the games, like the Frigid Lake game, for example, I think he was in a pretty good spot. A few more small changes in decisions there, and suddenly he's like up 4-3 instead of down 4-3.
And I also don't think it's like nerves, because he won a lot of online tournaments as well, right? He dominated the early Red Bull days, for example.
True.
And I don't think he was shaky at all. So I don't think like there's a massive difference, like, he can't do offline finals.
If anything, I would say it's a difference because he went down 2-0 as well at the start, right? a lot of people could just crumble there if they're actually struggling with nerves or mental blockage. But he just came back 2-2, right? And then it was on from there.
Pretty impressive, indeed. Mm-hmm.
And also, like, the set against Viper feels a bit like a final as well, right? It's late Saturday evening, like everyone is watching, like the pressure is on there. I think I think he will win one at one point.
Well, at some point he has to. Okay, so we just talked about Leary, but what about Hera? I mean, the big winner of the tournament. As far as I'm concerned, from the very first day, he looked incredibly prepared, incredibly ready to win the whole thing. And you actually played him very early on. So what do you make of his performance? Did it really feel like this guy is better prepared than usual even?
Yeah, like I think I got the sense as well, like that he and Leary, I mean, they had their boot camp in Argentina, right?
Right.
So they really put in the effort for this. And I could tell as well in the training room. I mean, I wasn't there too much after the incident, but even from the start, they were just playing nonstop there. So they seemed like they really wanted this, and that showed in their gameplay as well. Like Hera went through the group stage super smooth, and I think the most impressive display from Hera was probably the semifinal. Even 5-0ing Mr. Yo is like not many people are going to do that, right? And of course, the final was super clutch with 5-4 against Leary. But I think Hera, he came here to show what he's about, and I think he did so.
I think people really slept on Hera, although he was a top player. Like, I think he might have been the best player in Heidelberg at Red Bull Voodoo Legacy. And he simply lost the semifinal, but he was so dominant before that. And I think he obviously lost to Tado, but I think Tado might still be the worst player there. And it came down to a lot of preparation and like nice design there, and Tado advanced and won the whole thing. Then next tournament, a bit of pressure off Hera, wins the thing. Now he comes here, wins the thing again. Obviously, lots of back and forth online there. But he was my favorite. Although, obviously, I put Leary, Hera, Viper kind of in the same ballpark of the like 25% winning in direction. But if I had to pick one, I would have picked Hera before.
Folks, for better or worse, one of the protagonists of the final, and indeed of the whole tournament, ended up being the Flemish Revolution. We're talking about the Imperial Age unique technology from the Burgundians. And back in the group stage, Leary beat Hera using that technology in a game that I think, I'll say he had no business winning, considering the position he found himself in. And then in the last game of the finals, Hera sort of returned the favor. And that game in the final, I think, was particularly jarring to me, because it was kind of obvious he was going from it. He's going to do it right from the start, right? And yet it still felt like Leary could do nothing against it. He could do nothing to stop it. Can the Flemish Revolution still be reworked in some way, or does it have to go away completely?
Where do we start? I mean, since this civilization was introduced and this tech was introduced, I think most, at least the top level pros and so many people that play the game in general has been calling for that tech to just be removed completely, right? It's just where you can flip. We call it the button, right? Because you just hit the button and suddenly you have a 200 military, right? No one else can do that. No civilization can do that. Like at maximum, I think it's Sicilians where you get like 35. That's the closest equivalent to this type of tech. And when you can in any map for that sake, just add 7 ATCs, build 200 villagers, and click a button and then win the game. That doesn't feel like it's a grand strategy, you know. But obviously, what Hera did, everyone else would have done the same.
Right.
It's
and I'm not criticizing him in
of
any
course,
way.
Course, yeah.
It's the final, of course.
Yeah, of course. But like, it's not only that game; it was like throughout the whole tournament, right? We saw the use of Flemish Revolution multiple times. I was also I think I had it twice done against me.
By Leary once.
Leary once, Velese once. It's not very pleasant to play against. But then again, when I'm watching the games from the outside, I'm seeing like, if he does this and this, maybe he can actually hold it, right? So I think there are ways to deal with it, but it's just like, it's still so ridiculously tough because Burgundians have so much power in the early stage on those types of closed maps anyway.
It's not just the Flemish Revolution.
Exactly.
It's the civilization that's
the combination that leads you to having that situation where you can just click the button and then steamroll, because no civ can really deal with the army that comes. But like the final Leary against Hera as well, I think if Leary uses like 20 villagers to just build fortified walls whenever Leary or Hera was trying to break through just like one hole in the wall, if you have like 20 villagers just constantly walling behind and you have like 20, 30 hand cannons behind the walls, maybe you can hold it a little bit. But then again, if Hera has bomber cannons as well, it's like, it is tough no matter what. But personally, my take on the tech is no bueno.
It needs to go away. What about you, Nili?
Well, I already teased that devs are aware of the tech and the problems with it.
First leak
Well,
on the podcast.
we're leaky stuff here. All right, let's go. I like it.
And I also think the problem is that Burgundians have like 5 different advantages leading up to this. If Vikings had Flemish Revolution or Nordic
Extra
Revolution,
HP on the Flemish.
Nordic Revolution, then people wouldn't have the big problem, right? I also believe though that people are heavily misplaying against it though, right? I think like fortified walls, easy click, hand cannoneers, archer ranges in the back, more walling, focusing down the siege. Like there's so many plays that are not being made right now. And for example, if we put someone like very experienced arena players there, someone I would think like Running, Drake and Modri, I think they would come up with defensive ways that those players that aren't playing arena day in, day out would come up with.
Mm-hmm.
But on that's the issue, right? Okay, but what happens no matter what? You're always going to lose map control. The only thing you can do is go and hide behind your walls and try to buy time.
Mm-hmm.
And Burgundians are likely to have maybe 3, 4, 5 relics behind this as well. And by the time you even weather the storm, they're back to 100 villagers.
Right.
They have full map control.
That was the case.
Exactly.
During the final.
Even if you weather the storm, you're still in a bad spot. It's just really tough.
I hope they can find a way to balance it because it's undeniably a funny tech, right? I mean, just watching it, well, as a viewer, it makes for really good entertainment because you suddenly just have 200 army, no eco. It's just funny to look at, I will say. So I definitely hope they can find a way to balance it somehow. Nili, watching from home the tournament, one of the things that I loved the most about NEC4 was this sense of friendship and camaraderie between all the players and casters and organizers that transpired from the stream. And as a viewer, that's incredibly endearing to me because you're just sitting there watching and hey, that's just like me and my buddies. It's just the same thing. So I wonder, is this proximity something that's present in all the LAN tournaments we have? Or do you think that NEC4 really is special in the sense that it promotes an even closer relationship between everyone involved?
I think the people are really close, right? Obviously, with the Red Bull tournaments, for example, people came in that we didn't know, and they obviously struggle a bit more being integrated, right? Some people that newly joined, let's say Winchester, integrated extremely well, although we didn't have like super deep connections with them before. I think the Age of Empires community is very welcoming, but I also kind of force them to become friends in the sense like, okay, we're in 300 square meters and the 20 of us will spend the next 10 days here. So they have to spend time together, kind of, right? We start the first evening, like I force them to play, they chill, the first beer is being opened, and then they start chatting, right? Then the first match is happening and they started talking. So the setting creates that a bit.
Okay. What about for you as a player?
I would say like NEC4 now was definitely, I mean, I was part of N4C as well. So the step up in professionality is definitely there compared to NEC 1, 2, and 3, where it was way more, because it was obviously in your own apartment in Hamburg, and that was way more cozy because everyone kind of had to sit on top of each other on the couch, sit on the floor, you know. So you had a little bit more of the, we're at an apartment vibes, right? This became suddenly a little bit more professional, but still we have like the hangout area where everyone can chill. We have the training area where everyone can chill as well and play together. So compared to like a LAN like Red Bull, for example, this is still way more like sociable in many ways, right? So it's still like for players as well, I think is an incredible experience. Now, not everyone obviously are like as like to be as sociable as everyone else. And some people prefer to train, and when they're done, they go to the hotel and rest. I mean, that's obviously completely fine. But yeah, my experience as well is that like no matter what, everyone is always welcome and open to a chat, and like no one I think ever feels like left out when they're here.
It's amazing. Do you guys have favorite moments from the tournament?
I know what his favorite moment is.
I want to hear it.
Well, we just rewatched it. My rock paper scissors against
I've
T90.
just seen it.
That was probably my highlight of the night.
We'll talk about it a little bit.
I owned him.
It was master.
It's that simple.
That's
I got into his brain and fooled him.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Woo! Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. baited me so hard.
In his brain.
We had played earlier on in the week. We played earlier on in the week, and he did rock the entire time as well. That was a whole week of setup.
For me, it was probably the set against Villesse, where I was down 3-1. I was able to come back and win 4-3. I was like, when I was down 3-1, I was thinking, okay, well, that's probably going to be it for me. But I was able to come back. So for me, that was probably the most satisfying moment. I hadn't beaten him since 2021, apparently, in an S-tier tournament. I had only played him twice since then, but still, it still was a long time,
That might be
so that was quite pleasant. But what about yourself?
Yeah, for me, my favorite moment was actually the Flemish Revolution, the game between Lyria and Hera in the group stage. And mostly because of how bonkers T90 and Dash went because of it. I thought it was such a great moment.
Oh, is that what I think it is? The Revolution! Here he goes!
Let's go, baby!
He needs siege! Oh my god! 89 army, 0 eco for Leary!
But he's got one treb. He's got one treb. Is it gonna be enough? He's got a
Look at
big
him
old
laughing.
smile on his
He's
face, man.
laughing
He
so
knows.
hard.
He knows.
Production was also amazing.
Yes.
The memes were on point. I think they really managed to walk this very fine line where they don't overdo it, but it's still funny. Are they community members, Nili?
They're becoming community members.
They were
Obviously,
not before.
Yeah, they also worked on Home Story Cups, basically the similar tournament in the
That's a
StarCraft 2
StarCraft,
universe.
correct. Okay.
And also they worked on production in the Red Bull tournaments before.
True.
Also N4C, so they're growing in there. One of the guys, like the meme lord, actually grinded all the Out of War campaigns.
Oh, so we have a guy whose job is just to come up with memes?
Well, he's also the graphics guy, but
Okay,
yeah, he's
that helps.
not. Basically, we had one graphics meme guy, one production, and one who's switching the scenes and like has the run of show. And the meme guy, he was also really good in StarCraft 2, and his macro was on point. Like walked through all the Out of War and started playing ladder as well.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Also, big shout out to Vodka. Really showcasing how much value good observing brings to the table. And I think it just makes the job of the casters a lot easier, right?
I noticed that as well as a player, like when I'm casting.
He's
here.
an amazing
Yeah.
player, true.
When I'm casting as a player here as well, like compared to when we did it N4C, one of us has to control the mouse. It's just so much more relaxing. And I mean, Vodka, like I think he might have one of the hardest jobs here, right? He has no breaks. He has to observe every single set consecutively throughout the whole day. Every day, all the days in a row. He gets no breaks whatsoever. It's actually insane.
Crazy.
Sometimes he comes out of the kitchen like with 2 plates, 2 drinks, and like production is already waving at him because they jumped into the game. And he's like, "Oh, I thought they took a break." So yeah, long days, and we are solely relying only on him. Right? There was no replacement, no one who could fill for a game, for example.
True. Amazing job. I also want to hear your takes on the balance because this tournament was actually played in the new balance, right? In the March patch. You guys happy with it?
Actually, we got March balance.
With January path.
Yeah, exactly. So like that was crazy that was
pathing.
made for us basically only for this tournament because the feedback was okay, it's tough to take fights. We actually like choose different units now simply because we feel the pathing wasn't there and units could stack too much, and therefore I'm super thankful that Forgotten Empires reacted that quickly. And balance discussion.
Yeah, focusing on the balance specifically.
Yeah, I mean the balance changes in this most recent patch was very small. It was only like 7-8 changes, proper changes. I don't think they had too much of an impact, but I think the biggest impact we see is the 9 villager start we're using, right? If you compare the 3 villager start to the 9 villager start, that's where you see the most like that people actually play civs differently or like approached maps differently.
But we're going to be talking about that in just a bit.
Balance in general, I think the game is still at probably the best place it's ever been balance-wise. Considering how many civs we have right now, it's actually incredible how balanced it is. I mean, you see even every tournament now, like there's so many different maps and you see so many different civs utilized on every single map. So long may that continue.
I think one thing to add, what the devs are doing really well is making strong civilizations a bit weaker. I think what we're missing a bit, giving some more power to the weak civilizations, right? Because there have been civilizations at the bottom for a very long time that we aren't getting into the tournaments.
What type of civilization do you have in mind with that?
Like Celts, for example.
Celts is a fair one, yeah. But then you have civs like Koreans where you don't see them too much on land maps, but then again on
They're
water
not
maps,
bad necessarily.
suddenly they're amazing on
Mhm.
certain maps, right? That's also why we have like so many different maps are cool, because you have suddenly like 3-4 outsider civs that never are used. Suddenly they're like top 3 picks on that map, right?
Mhm, mhm.
That's also the beauty of Age of Empires, right? That we have so much variance. But I do agree with you that like, but Celts is also like they're so good in like
Team
4v4 Black Forest,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
If you give them a buff, suddenly
Yeah.
they're like, it's so hard to balance.
I also think it is totally fine to have civilizations. Not all not all civilizations should be viable at all
the time,
times.
yeah.
Agreed.
All right. I believe Hindustanis had a pretty terrible tournament. I think they lost like 14 games and only won 2. Were there other civs that surprised you, both negatively and positively?
Whew, good question. I don't have the stats in front of me, so
Right,
it's a bit
just
hard
as a
to-
player, if you just think
Um,
about what you saw.
I personally can say that I was surprised how heavily people went for Japanese. Like we saw a lot of like first pick Japanese.
Have a name in mind? Someone who picked Japanese
No,
a couple of
Viper,
times?
but also in the finals.
Yeah.
Haraliri. First pick was Japanese, for
Yeah,
example.
Portuguese and then Japanese.
Oh.
Um,
Portuguese expected.
I mean, Japanese are it's like especially on like the balance we're using as well. Like if we compare, we had like the Deep Waters League where they first introduced the 9 villager start, and then we had Warlords. But for Warlords, we used where you had standard resources though. On the Deep Waters League, you also started with less resources. That was like equivalent to like the stage of the game that you would be in with 9 villagers, and that carried on for Grand Melee and now also for your tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like builds become super tight. You need that little bit extra food, little bit extra wood to execute a certain build, or get a dock up faster, or a barracks up faster, to have the men-at-arms timing. And Japanese excel at that, right? Your lumber camp is 50 wood, mill is 50 wood, so you can afford the dock or the barracks. And obviously you have bonuses that come along with hybrid maps, such as like the saving that wood. You get the fishing ship out faster, and the fishing ship works faster as well. They have extra armor. So I still think Japanese are an amazing civ. Maybe not for Arabia, but they're a pretty good civ.
I suspect I know Nili's answer to this, so let me start with you, Viper. Do you think best of 9 for a final is too much?
I think it's the maximum it should ever be. I know like these young guys were like even suggesting
They
the
wanted to
of
make
it.
best
Yeah,
of 11.
They wanted the best of 11. I personally think like best of 9 is a sweet spot, like for 9 villager start. If there's a 3 villager
I
start,
didn't think of that.
3
Right.
villager start, I think best of 7 is the sweet spot. Because obviously games can take a long time, and we don't have a time limit like in Red Bull. Suddenly you can have a like ACCMO on enclosed. Suddenly you have a 2-hour game. Oh, we finished game 2 and it's been 3 hours already, right? And we have another 6 to 8 games to go, right? If we have a best of 11. So personally, I think best of 7 for 3 villager start, best of 9 for 9 villager start. I would never go above that.
Mm-hmm.
I obviously gave a lot of free hand to the players and casters. Directly the Monday after the second qualifier finished, we had a talk. All the players, all the casters were there, and I had like a long list of what they wanted, like food preferences for catering and such. And one of the questions was, how do we structure the tournament in the sense, like how many bands do we want, how many snipes, and that's how we came up with this kind of not linear best of 7, best of 7, best of 9, best of 9 structure.
Mm-hmm.
Simply because casters didn't really want to go for best of 11 because it's training.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really want to have a break in best of 11, right? Because I think like if you do a break, it should be at least half an hour, but it also kills a lot of momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And there were not a lot of people that wanted to play a best of 11 without a break, right? And therefore best of 9 felt like the best answer. Typical thing that we have, and that was the problem with TTL finals, right? If we have a short best of 7, people are asking for best of 9s. And if we have a long best of 9, people are asking for best of 7s.
True.
It always depends on the result, right? And as well, what people don't consider is that there's a production team behind this as well, right? That they also have to endure. They'll have to endure the whole time, right? Vodka would have to observe potentially 11 games.
Mm-hmm.
That's so draining.
It'd be 6.5 hours without a break. Something.
The casters might have to cast 11 games, right? It's insane.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah. I don't think there were any breakout performances this tournament, right? What would you guys say?
It's hard to be a breakout performance among like top 10 players in the world, right? So
True.
Yeah.
We're talking about the top 10. Yeah, that's true.
I think we can easily point towards someone that had like really, really impressive performances. Like I would bring out Nikov out to the front, right?
That's what I was thinking about.
He had a super clutch qualifier against Doubt, And like I've said this before as well. When I played him in the group stage, I won 3-1, but I felt like this guy is playing serious Age of Empires, right? And you can always feel that when you're playing someone as well. So I think Nico, for example, had a really hopefully he came out of this with a really positive experience.
Mm-hmm.
I envy him that as well, because he had like the Red Bull situation where he got like a false positive
Must have
COVID.
been so
I
hard
think.
for him, yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, Nili, this one is for you. Viewership for the tournament was pretty solid, as far as I was able to see. I believe we hit over 40,000 viewers across all platforms, with a peak of 25,000 in your channel. And to put things into context here, into perspective, that's way more than the 27,000 who tuned into NAC3. That's also a lot more than some of Red Bull's Wololo's tournaments. We kind of looked at it yesterday. But obviously not quite as many as the 77,000 who tuned into the big LAN events like Red Bull 5, Red Bull Legacy. Are you happy with the numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, how Twitch numbers work is a lot like how much do you get front page, how well can you time the front page. For example, we had front page from, I think, the start for the first 2 hours, and so we peaked at like 24K, and then it suddenly dropped to like 19,000 because I had the German front page, right? That is something relevant, right? And then we worked ourselves up from 19,000 to 25,000, right? Let's assume the front page is 2 hours later. Suddenly we're talking about, with momentum on Twitch, we are getting 35,000 maybe, right? Simply because more channels are tuning in, right? At one point we were like the 11th biggest channel on Twitch.
Wow, nice.
And then just so many randoms are suddenly clicking you, right? And if you are sitting at 35, then suddenly I become the 6th biggest channel or whatever, right? And it just randomly grows. If the last game goes to our game, right? If the Revolution is getting defended and both try to reset with 80 villagers, no one is tuning off at that point, right? So it's like so much out of my control. And that's why I always said that my last NSE heavily overperformed, in the sense that I clearly got the two most hyped players at that moment with the Viper and Terra. And it also went to 10 games in a best of 11, right? So it was a 6-4. I'm pretty sure about it. And therefore, I knew that I overperformed, right? I still wanted to have like 28K, 27K, slightly higher than NAC3 on my own channel, but I also knew making completely open streaming, NAC3 was heavily restricted. I knew that a lot of people would freely choose, and it would be very competitive, even though the whole scene grew. So my minimum goal was 22K, and after we broke that, I was happy.
Perfect.
Awesome.
What would you change about the tournament for NAC5, Nili?
What is NAC5?
NAC5 confirmed.
For a potential NAC5. Okay, I'll give you time to think. What about you, Viper?
What I would change? No gallstones allowed.
Oh, well, no. Let's start with that.
Like, for me, these types of events are like, I'm just so happy to be a part of these. It's such a great environment to be in. Of course, you spend like a solid amount of time, or it's like a solid 10 days that goes away of your life, but it's all worth it, right? I don't think I would change much, to be honest. I think this is a pretty sweet spot. And if you try to change things one way or another, I think it might come out worse. You can always improve minor things. Oh, the food could taste a little better. Oh, there could be clean plates, you know, but...
Could just clean your plate as well.
I do. I try to. Before you answer, what about you? Like, from outsider perspective, because you've been watching the whole thing from your couch. You said you were sick. So you've been also experiencing the Twitch atmosphere. How has it been perceived from the outside?
Well, as you know, as an earlier tournament organizer myself, I'm tired just thinking about all the work that these people do, and you know, I really hesitate towards saying something about that. But if I really had to say something, and this is incredibly subjective and not a complaint, I felt like I kept seeing the same maps over and over again.
We even had a big map pool, 15 maps.
Well,
but Hippopotamus only twice, for example.
But that is such a crazy map that people try to avoid it.
Yeah, it's totally subjective, of course. So I guess I wouldn't mind if we just exponentially increase the number of home maps. And I know that means a lot of work for the administrators. And but I just guess it also rewards more preparation, right? Because everybody's going to play each map a lot less.
I think the only way to circumvent that would be to have like fixed maps. Like day 1, you have this map as game 1. Day 2, you have this map as game 1. Like to make sure you see certain maps a little bit more frequently.
Well, but in that case, I personally wouldn't mind not seeing like 2 or 3 maps. I just like the thought that one of the players can go, okay, I know nobody's playing this map.
Right.
I'm going to prepare a very good and specific strategy for that map, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And what I see as being the problem is that it's a lot of work for the map scripters as well. But, you know, map scripting it's become so good these days. Map scripters are so good at balancing the maps for a competitive setting. So I wonder whether that could be something to consider.
Okay, Nili, what would you improve about NAC 5?
I think when it comes to maps, like looking back, NAC 4 could have lost one of the mixed maps. I think either Golden Swamp, Frigid Lake, or Kavasan gone, most likely Kavasan.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, that was heavily like player driven, right? Because that worked really well for N4C, and typically, if the players are enjoying the map pool, the games are simply better. That's what I believe, and that's what has proven to be correct.
I agree.
I think 15 maps feels very reasonable. Adding it up to 17 could make small changes. I think it's just, we did a reasonable amount of testing on Hippopotamus. It was played a lot in the qualification.
Mm-hmm.
I think people just realized, okay, it's just too much out of my control. I think if the main event is 2 weeks later and we make like slight balance changes, like just an outpost in front of your base, something like small tweaking, right, can be absolutely like stabilizing the map. Obviously, there was very limited time between the qualification and we did some changes, like moving stragglers a bit to make it a bit more playable.
Less villager rushing.
Just make the game a bit more stable would have been the thing. And I have a theory. You only saw the same maps over and over again because you watched every day 6 hours.
Good point.
The man is smart. Yeah, that's very possible as well. That's very possible.
Another thing to point out with adding more maps is also you complicate drafts even more. So it's like...
It takes longer, you mean?
No, not necessarily takes longer, but like it's going to be so much for the players to think about as well, right? When you're drafting, like you can prepare somewhat, okay, I want to pick this map and this map, I'm going to ban this, right? But you cannot predict everything, like what he will ban, what he will pick. So for you to then to start like preparing and like thinking about the draft when there's like 21 maps, it's like... We had 21 maps in Warlords, but there it was like the...
it was in categories.
Yeah. Right? One map from each category, and there was only 3 maps in each category. I think that worked pretty well. And we also saw a lot of variation because of that. So maybe something like that would be an option to consider for the future.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the 9 villager start. To be extremely honest with you, most of the times I was watching, I completely forgot it was a 9 villager start. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of folks didn't even know it was a 9 villager start. So just for clarification, a standard grand map game in Age of Empires 2 starts with 3 villagers. But NAC 4 and a few other tournaments in the recent past have adopted the 9 villager start. And I think the idea is to sort of speed up the first few minutes of Dark Age, right? Which is considered by some viewers and some players too, the most boring part of the game. So yeah, from a viewer's perspective, as far as I'm concerned, mission accomplished. But how does it feel like as a player? Does it change things a lot? Does it require a lot of adaptation?
So I think the main positive that comes to from a player perspective is that training is way easier. You don't have to do the same 3-4 minutes of Dark Age every single time you're booting up to train something, right? It feels way more faster paced and you feel like you get way more games in there. So it's very nice in that aspect. The only thing where it might take a little bit away from is maybe like the whole strategic planning in regards to scouting and like preparing the strategy. Maybe like getting some intel from the opponent's base that gives a hint to what he's going for, right? So it's not as extreme as Empire Wars. We have to like kind of blindly go for an opening right from the start. But it is still somewhat where you're like, okay, I'm just going to do this opening and hope it works out kind of thing. There is a little bit of a lack of scouting in order to like adapt and change your approach based on that. So that's the only negative I would say. But for personally, I'm enjoying the 9 villager start a lot. And I've been voicing my opinion to try and get that into the ladder somehow as well. So we can play that. Because what I don't want is continued thing like we have right now where like half of the tournaments, maybe even more, are 9 villager start. But every time I boot up my stream and play on the ladder, I'm playing 3 villager start, right? There's a bit of a disconnect then from tournament play to the everyday play. It's
the age-old question, right? No pun intended. But do you balance the game based on how the professionals play, or do you base the game based on how 99.9% of the player base play? Right? I think it's a tough call.
Yeah, I think like if they can do like right now we have like with the random civ option, you can just tick a box. Hey, I'm open to playing random civ, right? If there was like let's tick a box to be open to play 9 villager start, right? Maybe that would be an option, but then again, like they would have to like work in the map scripts and balance it for every single map that will be in the map pool. So I guess it's a lot of work for them as well, but I don't know, hopefully in the future.
Nili?
I I think maps are going to be a problem, right?
Yeah.
Arabia would need to change every single time. And I honestly believe Age of Empires doesn't have enough of a player base to have above 2.1k level players playing 9 villager start, because then every arena player will play 9 villager start. But if you want to be a 2.1k 3 villager start on Arabia, you won't get any of the tournament players. So I think it will be tricky.
Yeah, I can see that. It's just like a personal wish, because personal enjoyment from 9 villager start is a little bit higher at the moment. I still enjoy 3 villager start, don't get me wrong. We had in T90 Titans League was 3 villager start, right? Still tons of great games and a lot of fun. So if that stays, no problem here.
As I just said, I don't mind the 9 villager start, but I have one worry, and that's this constant push that I feel for people trying to make Age of Empires faster paced. And I mean, if you're watching Age of Empires 2, there's a good chance you'll like the fact that it is somewhat slower paced, right? I mean, if you prefer a faster paced RTS, you're just going to watch StarCraft or something, right? So my worry is that if we keep accelerating the pace of the game, at some point we might lose a little bit of the identity of the game, you know? And we end up with a worse version of StarCraft, you know? Worse commands, worse pathing. So do you guys agree? Is there the danger that at some point we don't have the same game anymore if we keep trying to accelerate things just for the sake of viewers?
I think if we keep trying hard to push that, yes, but I don't think anything.
Let me make it clear, we're still very far from that.
I don't think we're ever going to push past the 9 villager start. I think that's the limit in terms of how far we're going to go when it comes to accelerating Dark Age. Obviously, if it's beyond that, it's Empire Wars, right? But I mean, we see with Empire Wars, right? It's used in Red Bull tournaments, but after the tournament, who plays Empire Wars, right? There's not a lot of people, to my knowledge. So
T90 is third on the ladder.
That says everything, in my opinion. But yeah, I think 9 villager start is like the maximum we should go. I don't think we should go further than that, because that would take away too much from, like you said, identity of the game.
Right. Okay.
Nili?
I think that people that want to keep it slow are the majority of people that play Age of Empires, right?
Right.
Those should not be pushed into any direction speeding up the game, right? That is really important. But out of those, 90% are not watching esport.
Yeah.
So I think speeding up our games won't impact the core base and what they like. As long as we keep it slow for them, they won't mind if it's 2-minute cut at the start, I believe.
Agreed.
Interesting.
As a viewer, I mean, you said yourself you didn't notice or even think about
that.
Right,
as a viewer, totally cool. Cool.
Right, well, that concludes our section about NAC4, which was, I think, in summary, a great success.
I would say so.
I would agree. Coming up next, we actually at the end of NAC4, MEMB announced King of the Desert, which will be an $80,000 online tournament as well, a classic tournament there as well, just like NAC. But that one is coming up in the beginning of May, I believe, right? 9th of May, I think the main event starts, probably qualifiers before that. And until that, we're also going to see a lot of Nations Cup games and upcoming Rage Forest as well, which I'm personally quite excited for.
Yeah, Rage Forest 4. All right, let's go for that. Rage Forest 4 starts March 27th, and it will be a 4v4 Black Forest tournament only. And my dear co-host will be participating in it, as he just said. Who's on your team again? Is it T90?
I have, yeah, unfortunately. I'm Kamigawa, King Marv, and the Bloodless. T90 will probably be on the bench, because I've tried to talk to him here about like training and such, but he's like, no, I'm not going to play the next week. I'm like, okay. Bench. That one is easy.
That's your first pick, by the way.
I mean, I was on the spot, you know. The pressure of drafting was actually like, there's so many players, good players on the list, and you have to pick one, right? It's just, it's like in school when you're picking and you don't want to, you know, whatever.
I wasn't too interested about it.
Yeah.
Nili, you haven't played much Rage Forest yourself, have you?
Well, I was a captain in Rage Forest 3, actually. Or in Rage Forest 2, I think. Yeah, I wasn't allowed to play Rage Forest 3 because conflict of interest.
You were still a tournament coordinator, right?
Yeah, but I played 2 and really liked it. And I picked it up a bit as well. Obviously, Black Forest is part of the Nations Cup map pool as well, right? And I trained some with Germany. So I played some Black Forest games as well, but obviously there are 200 people that played way, way more than me.
You're on Taro's team there, right? Who was the remaining people on your team?
Say again, what remaining people?
Your remaining people on the team.
Chaos to win.
He's a very, very strong Black Forest player.
Yeah. Like
he was at the meetup as well.
Yeah. Then Moore, the Spanish player, and someone that I'm forgetting, but who's also I think a German player emotionally close to us. Oh, that's really unfair that I'm forgetting him. Oh, I'm feeling bad.
Oh boy. Check Wikipedia.
Check Wikipedia, my man.
So we'll cut here, and after that, I instantly remember.
Okay, let's do that.
Is it a German guy?
I think so. I
Rage
think it's actually a
Forest.
German guy.
Is it like R-A-R? No.
Not AR12, no.
Check Wikipedia.
I feel like I know
man.
as well who it is.
Team
Philip?
Tato. It's
Is it
your
Philip? LB10? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
LB10.
Austrian guy. Okay, LB10.
LB10. Now I remember.
instantly remembered.
Yeah,
Instantly remembered.
to remember. Obviously, good friend of mine, so it hurts even more that it took me 3 seconds to think about that. But I honestly think we have like 4 players that played a lot of team games. Obviously, no like pure Black Forest specialist, but all with experience. And LB10 played a lot of Black Forest himself as well. Yeah.
Can I ask about how serious is your team?
I don't know. Tato basically decides that. But there is like Chaos. Obviously, he's training a lot of 4v4 right now. LB10 still has a dream with Austria. So I think we are all in kind of 4v4 training mode. And there's nothing really coming up. Right? So if you want to train and if you're out of Nation Cup, like Tato and potentially LB10, like they will have time to train.
Sounds good. I mean, like the first thing I did when we drafted our team was make a Discord channel for the team, and like we had introductions, like how your playstyle is. So we're trying to take it a little bit semi-serious. I told them like we're gonna try our best, right? But if we lose, no hard feelings, obviously. But like I wanna do well, you know. I wanna fish boom. You know?
There are teams that I shouldn't talk about. But let's say there are some teams really well prepared.
Yes.
Indeed.
Way more prepared than like NAC preparation compared to that is nothing. Yeah. Nothing.
So I wonder for you, Viper, was picking the best team the only thing you had on your mind, or were you also thinking?
Did you see my first pick?
Or were you also thinking about what possibly give you the best highlights to post on YouTube?
No, I mean like the first part of me was like obviously this is a tournament where it's like I think even though it's gonna be competitive, very competitive. I still think people view it like this is going to be super fun, no matter what, right?
It's a fun tournament.
For me as well, it was like I actually was planning to kind of pick Nili as my first pick, but Tato was there first. And I was like, okay, T9 is still there. I'm friends with T9. Let's just pick T9, right? And I was considering Daniel as well, but he was sniped. But part of it is like I want to have a team that goes along together as well, can laugh, have fun, and not take it too serious, but at the same time take it a little bit serious, right? I think we have a healthy mix of that. I've gotten to play a bit with Bloodless as well now, get to know him a little bit.
He's mainly an arena player, if I'm not
he's
mistaken.
a clown.
Yeah.
He's a monk rusher.
Okay,
so
I wouldn't
he's
call
gonna
him
be he's gonna be on the flank doing monks.
Oh, we have
non-stop.
strategies already. You're going to be pocket, that's for sure.
No leaks here, not of that kind.
So we can abuse the fish traps.
Yeah, but no, there's a lot of good teams. I think there's going to be amazing games in Rage Forest. There's a lot of good teams. I'm looking a lot forward to it.
I think the meta has changed a lot, Nili. Have you watched it recently? I mean, back in the day, I think back to the games Please Be Gentle was streaming, right? It was one of the pioneers of streaming Black Forest games. And it used to be mostly boom games, right? People would wall up in boom. And these days, people are so aggressive. I think they changed the map script to make it a little bit more open.
I think it's not only map script, it's also the addition of new civs, right? Suddenly we have civs like Bohemians that impact the game a lot. So people have to, like polls as well, right? You have people that, civs that benefit from either being super aggressive in the opening, maybe from getting to the late game, Hofnitze, you know? So I think it's more dependent on the new civ additions. And of course, they've made some map adjustments to the script as well. But what I like about Rage Forest is like there's so many decisions that go into it, especially as a flank, right?
It's very strategy.
If you spawn without a pond and your opponent has a pond, maybe you're benefiting from actually going forward and trying to make things happen, right? I kind of leaned away a bit from Black Forest for a long time, but I've just played it again now recent months, and I have to say I think it's in a super healthy state, entertainment-wise.
You're going to be watching a little bit when you're not playing, Nili?
No, I will let Tato do the analysis there. I don't think I have it in me.
So just like GL.
All right, and at this point, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Williams, with a V, by the way. He's the founder of the Rage Forest Discord server, where a lot of these things are planned.
Huge Discord.
Yeah, and it's a huge Discord server. It's probably one of the biggest one in the community right now.
Activity-wise.
For sure. There's
and-
game 24/7.
Right, you can basically fight Black Forest games all the day, the whole day long. I myself, I love being there. I think the guys are really funny and really nice. I don't do much playing. It's mostly backseat gaming, but it's good times. And coming next, we still have the Nations Cup going on, Viper, right?
Yeah, we do. Unfortunately for Norway, we're kind of delegated to the Silver League already. Feels Nili, man. But I'm thinking, but yeah, Germany though are still in it for the big win potentially.
I heard the top 3 is
not
it the
favorites for sure.
To win, not at all.
Favorites probably Finland, China.
And the list. No, end the list. It's Finland.
Finland?
It's
That's
Finland.
favorites? You don't think-
The favorites is Finland.
Okay, favorites are Finland apparently. Outsiders China, Germany.
It's close. I actually think China could crumble quite a bit.
Okay.
I don't think the team is good around Tim. The map pool isn't that great for them. I think they could struggle and lose against a lot of other top 8 teams, like eitherly against like Canada, France,
Oh yeah.
maybe even Germany, like some options. But it's just like Finland and then a whole lot of nothing after that.
Yeah, I haven't watched the games, but I heard that Canada have
They've been
sailing so far.
destroying. Yeah.
exactly.
And Mentalist is back. I mean,
Yeah, that's
apparently he was back the whole time under a Smurf nickname.
I had no idea.
I was
yeah.
really happy to see him. Right. So
I just heard from that Jordan has been watching their games and he's just listening to their voice comm, and they're like always so nice to each other and like the Canadian way, and when you backed it up with performance as well, I mean, Canada maybe an outsider, who knows?
Not that much of an outsider anymore, right? A lot of people questioned them before. I questioned them because I felt they didn't really have the leader that knows, okay, how do I go through the Civ draft for a 4v4 team island, followed by 2 rivers, followed by Chaos Pit, and then distribute the roles, right? I don't see even Hera, how would he do that? But right now they're so heavily outskilling that they can compensate for that, and maybe with some more training, they will get onto that level, and then they are top 3 contender for me.
They beat France 3-0, right?
which
that,
which
yeah.
was
Yeah.
considered one of the best countries
Yeah,
as well, right?
exactly.
It's pretty impressive.
France were one of the teams that were considered maybe they could sneak into top 3, top 4.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, Canada looking good. Germany though, ambitions in the end. What do you think?
I heard top 3 was
Ooh.
one of the things people were talking
I
about.
think we got 4th seed, and the goal is to defend that one. Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Obviously,
all
it is
right. Fair
double
enough.
elimination, right? So you can lose once if we face some big names early on.
If Jordan was not on the team list, would you still be seed 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I maybe we got 3rd seed or something, and would have been 4th seed. Jordan didn't matter if we made it to the top 4. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. But Jordan, from my understanding, is not going to play any games for Germany. He's not really training with you guys.
Well, the thing is, everyone is motivated. Everyone is playing team games right now because of Nations Cup and Rage
Right,
Forest,
right.
and he's not playing Rage Forest. So, what else is he doing?
he has started playing some Rage Forest now.
Yeah, but he's not playing the tournament,
True.
right? So, if he wants to compete at anything that's not JMB, which
Yeah.
is ending as well, what can he do
Oh yeah, JMB as well. Next weekend. I think.
next Wednesday?
Next Wednesday, the final of
Jordan
JMB as well. It's
Medieval's
Jordan's Medieval
Brawl.
Brawl.
Mhm.
Exactly, it's happening as well. So that's also something to look out for.
Mhm.
But after that, King of the Desert, I believe. Is
King of the
coming up.
Desert 5, you mentioned $80,000 prize pool. And what about the Order of the Sheep? I heard there's a new video out.
I saw some stuff during the NAC4 tournament itself.
But do we have some insider information we can reveal here? Well, I don't, but
They're watching.
They're
They're watching carefully. I personally as well, I don't have any inside information on this. I can't say anything myself. I've also the first time I saw anything about it was the same thing that you saw. So
Mhm.
normally I have some kind of, I hear something from my little ear about tournaments upcoming, but this one I had no idea about. So I'm as much speculating as anyone else.
I saw the trailers on stream as well.
Was the
First
first
time
time
I
I
saw
saw it.
Production
Ah,
knew it.
really?
Production knew it. I said yeah, they're sending something. Just roll it.
Sick.
Awesome. Okay, guys, this was really fun, man. It was a great time with you guys.
I think it's a great start.
I hope
to
it was a great
Keep talking or
Well, let us know.
Oh,
Let us
it's
know.
keep.
He got
You
it.
got it.
He got it.
Oh.
All right, guys, that was it from us. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you happen to enjoy the content, make sure to follow, leave us a comment, subscribe to the channel, and let us know who you would like us to invite next to the show. I mean, this time around it was Nili. Next time
Because
could
I
be
was
someone
here,
else.
not because I was invited. but
no,
okay.
we definitely wanted you here.
Well,
That's why we set up the table exactly.
Yeah, perfect spot for a third person.
There's even Someone blocking my feet here. Okay. Yeah,
This was
thanks for
planned.
inviting me.
You're
For
welcome.
sure. Anyway, your opinion matters, guys, and we'll make sure to keep an eye on your feedback. Thanks so much, guys. See you next time.
Goodbye.